just fun to do.
Well, I haven't had a chance to really talk about those packs. I haven't had a...
Right? Yeah.
So many people listening to me talk about the kits are all like, what are you guys all about? Joe gets ready to speak, and it's like, mentally, I'm like, I got this, Joe.
Oh, yeah.
You go talk to somebody else. I got this.
Oh, yeah. You should saw Jody. Jody volunteered at PAX East in Boston with us just this past March. And she's never done a booth before, but she is a very natural talker. And I have never seen anybody take to that environment so quickly and just jump right in. And it's like, you want to learn more about Guardians Mental Health? Hey, come on over on this side. We got all this space over here. Come on over. You want to learn? We got this, we do this and that and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, wow, I didn't have to give a spiel or nothing. Like, she just dove right into it very naturally. And then I threw her to the wolves for an interview. For a bio.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, somebody came around, and they reached out by email like several weeks in advance, wanted to do an interview from somebody at GMH, and I threw her to the wolves.
Testing the passion.
Yeah. Oh,
it was a great interview. I had like no problems with it. As long as I had my tool in my hand, I'm just like twirling it. Words flowing like nobody's business. Not a tool in my hand. Yeah. I fumble. The whole time, the whole 2 days, I was helping out at the booth. Now, honestly, I wasn't even supposed to help on the first day, but I just kind of did it anyway, because why not? Friday was my actual day to really be in the booth. The whole time on Thursday, when I got there, Joe showed me like little toys and it's like the little noodles. The whole time we're talking, I'm sitting there, I'm like this, twisting it, stretching it, wrapping around my finger, and I got eye contact with Joe. It's like my eyes had not left his as we're just talking and just playing with that. Words just flew.
It's very natural.
I'm good. I work in retail. What do you expect?
You're used to dealing with people.
Exactly. So I'm used to selling things. So yeah. Oh,
hey,
I gotta do.
Oh, there's an
I
echo.
gotta do this.
Oh, it shouldn't be an echo. I don't have the audio any. Do I have the audio somewhere else?
I don't know.
There.
Becca, you still got an echo? Boba Fett, what's going on? The ladies are echoing. I wonder if someone else talk.
Testing, 1, 2.
Am I the one maybe echoing? I don't see why I would be.
No, it might be one of my settings that I have in OBS. It's good now. Okay. So what was happening was I had the audio from my headset going, but also the audio output capture as well. So.
Oh, that makes sense.
That would do it.
Sorry.
But are you really?
I am a little bit. I'm a little embarrassed, but I have so many different scenes set up, and like I have transitions, I have stingers, miniature, like I have a whole setup for the miniatures for painting and everything, and I have a dual camera set up now, so I've been messing with everything, trying to make that work. That way I can turn like this, have this camera going, but also another camera right here that points directly at the miniature so you can see it, and then another light so it's not,
Put into the Stream Deck to
darkness.
use. Putting that Stream Deck to use.
Oh, dude. Folders are the best thing ever added to a Stream Deck.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I have an entire folder just for work, and it's so efficient. Like, I don't have to sit there and press pages. I just have a folder. Boom. There's all my work stuff, Google Drives, everything, documents. I pull it right up. But that's an entirely different conversation.
That's another topic for our product review.
Absolutely. We can have a casual chat another time. But tonight is a very special night, and I'm so excited for this. We haven't done one of these in a little while now, and I'm really excited because I love when we all get together for these roundtable talks. These are just so meaningful. I love encouraging viewers, everybody in the chat, everybody to help engage, join the conversation with us as well. So, boundaries. The topic tonight is boundaries. This is a topic that we revisit just about every year, but it's a very meaningful topic in the sense that it affects every single person, and it is a topic that keeps coming up regularly from our own ambassadors, team members, mods, to people throughout the communities. You know, it doesn't matter where you are. People have a hard time not only setting boundaries, really understanding, you know, those lines, those invisible lines for the boundaries, and then sticking to them. And that's really the hard part right there, because I know so many people who are just so selfless and just so open, and opening that door could really open a floodgate, and it can be, get overwhelmed very quickly. So having those clear boundaries is very important, and then learning how, seeing those warning signs, and recognizing when those boundaries are being crossed, to also know how to push back and give space as well. So like I was saying, boundaries play a critical role in maintaining healthy relationships and promoting well-being. We're gonna create a wonderful roundtable discussion tonight on boundaries. We're going to cover some key points about it, some warning signs, and then some actionable takeaways, because one of the most valuable things that comes from these roundtable talks for everybody who's tuning in and joining the conversation is having something to take away from these. And that's what we try and aim to do with every one of our streams, is have something meaningful for people to take away from, some experience, some knowledge, something, gain something from it, besides listening to me ramble on and on. So let's explore a little bit of the importance of boundaries in both our personal life and professional lives, as well as content creators, because a lot of people may not realize content creation is it's a job. It's not something you just kind of like, hey, I think I'm going to hit live tonight and that's going to be it. I'm going to be the next Broman or Snaps or somebody. No, it takes a lot of time, a lot of dedication, community building, learning how to engage with viewers while creating, content and making it entertaining for everybody and meaningful as well. It takes a lot of hard work for content creators.
And a lot of people think that, I'm just going to start streaming and I'm going to get like Twitch famous in no time, and they get disappointed really easily when the views don't come in, or that they've been doing it for a year or two and they're barely cracking 10 views.
Right. Yeah. And that's a very common thing that you see. I mean, there's something like 17, I think there's over 1 billion streamers now worldwide. I mean, it's a growing thing. If you combine all the platforms, I'll pull a number while somebody else is talking here in a minute, because I don't want to be throwing out numbers and not be accurate. But I know it's several million. We'll see if it passed 1 billion. But
on Twitch, they have close to 8 million active streamers.
8 million active streamers.
Yeah.
And that doesn't include YouTube, Kick.
Well, that's just on Twitch.
Right.
It was closer to 10 million back in January 2021.
COVID. The lockdowns.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
It does.
But when you actually think about this, 8 million active streamers is a lot.
Right, and that's just on one platform. That doesn't include Facebook Gaming, YouTube, Kick,
Twitch,
Instagram Live,
TikTok,
the Tiki-Taki for however much longer we have it for. We're all going to get a lot more done Just gonna say that right now,
Oh,
because I'm not the only one that at 4:45 before you go to work, you're like, I'll watch TikTok for a minute while I have a cup of coffee, and then before you know it, it's been an hour.
Stupid TikTok.
I know, but I learned so much.
Well, there are nuggets of truth on TikTok, and I was actually having that conversation today with a Full Sail about TikTok and how it's a great and horrible place all at the same time.
Oh, that's right. You were a guest speaker at Full Sail University today.
Yeah.
How'd that go? Good?
Really good.
Awesome.
Only inspiring a few up and coming game developers.
That's awesome. I'm very glad Becca reached out and that you had time to do that. That was a really cool opportunity right there. So, now to go back to, I did touch on that boundaries are this invisible line, right? And they really are. They're invisible lines we draw around ourselves to separate our needs, feelings, and values from others. These are our boundaries. This is that line we set to kind of protect ourselves. There are several different kinds of boundaries, and I did a little bit of research. You all are going to know a lot more than me. But so far, from what I found, there was 5 different kinds of boundaries. 1, emotional boundaries, physical boundaries, workplace boundaries, material boundaries, and time boundaries. Sound about accurate?
I usually break them into 6, but yeah.
What's the 6th?
So I do, to split them up, I do intellectual, emotional, sexual, time, material, and physical. Separating physical, material, and sexual into their own, and then emotional, intellectual, and then time being the one that no one learns ever how to, like, manage.
It's fair.
A boundary can be anything. It depends on the individual. It goes into assertiveness and really focusing on your wants and your needs.
True. So why are boundaries important? Why does it matter that we set boundaries for ourselves?
Well, we don't want to get overwhelmed with everything at once. So you need to draw a line between certain things. I mean, for me, it's I can totally relate to the workplace boundary. I mean, I got to deal with that like 5 days a week and everything. Because there comes a point where, and it's not just my coworkers with the boundaries, it's our clients too. Sometimes they will cross that line with how they treat you, and it's like, whoa, no, we're not going to do this. No, we're not going to do this. My pet peeve is when they do this, and I'm like, or they like waving you over, no, and I just look around like,
you talking to me?
Are you talking to me? They're like, yeah, can you come here? I go, can you stop waving at me and ask me nicely, please? They're like, could you please come help me? I was like, thank you.
Because there's been a shift, a cultural shift in terms of the expectation placed on individuals. And certainly in certain workplaces, depending on what type of work that you do, there is additional demands coming from upper management, not necessarily recognizing or taking into consideration the human aspect of the person, that they are not robots or machines.
Right.
One of the big things that I do in my own practice with a lot of the people that are burnt out, they come from workplaces where management say, well, we really need 5 people to run this department, but you guys are good with 3, right? You can do it with 3.
Yeah.
Everyone's doing like 1.5 person's job, and they're burning out. Oh yeah, we're hiring a 4th person, and it's been 6 months, 12 months. Yeah. And that kind of comes where those boundaries kind of come, like, say, like workplace and emotional, physical. Because if you don't set in those boundaries, workplaces will just take over and take advantage. Because why would they hire someone else if everyone's just busting their ass to get the job done?
Yep.
And they're saving on 2 salaries.
True.
There's the internal and external, with boundaries too. I think like you brought up expectations in general. So I think it just sets the platform for what are we going to expect out of this. So thinking of like, at work, what is that boundary and what is that expectation versus in my private life? Or if there are like people that overlap and have like multiple relationships with you, like whether it's like they work with you, but they also are your buddy outside. I think boundaries just help us set the tone and expectation.
When it comes to
You can come in, Dingo. You're good.
these workplaces, we were talking about how horrible TikTok is, but there are those nuggets that are great on TikTok. I saw a creator, it's been like a year, but his video really stuck with me. And he called it kind of the plight of Mike. So every work has a Mike. And Mike is that rock star employee, the person that everyone turns to, that Mike is on his day off, but shit is hitting the fan, so they call in Mike to replace the person that called out sick. And Mike will be there. But work will always rely on this person because they are so good. And if Mike doesn't have those boundaries, he'll always say yes, but eventually Mike will burn out. And the workplace will have no more Mike. And this employer said to keep Mike, to keep that rockstar employee, he was putting in the boundary for him that you can only call Mike in 2 times a month.
Mm.
If you can't do it outside of that, you have to deal with it some other way. And that was a good boss wanting to protect that employee. But those are very far and few between.
I was going to say that's actually pretty rare.
Oh yeah, that is rare, because most employers are going to say, well, just tough it out, deal with it. Yeah.
So like lack of boundaries dehumanize. It's kind of also the impression.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the key components of burnout. And when it comes to industrial and organizational psychology, a happy employee is an employee that has control over their work.
True.
When it comes to their schedule, when it comes to their ability to do things, the trust that people have in their abilities to do things. But oftentimes, management doesn't follow suit. When people don't quit their jobs, they quit their management.
This is true.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I was going to add even giving a sense of control, actually, because it's based on their perspective. Sometimes you actually don't have control of a lot, and you have to kind of generate something that you think you can. So, but you're right. Yeah, people don't eventually, or people eventually recognize, like, if they're not going to have some sense of autonomy or control, it's not great.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for a lot of people, putting boundaries is very difficult. Because a lot of people, certainly if you think about millennials, we've kind of all been taught to, you have to be nice, the boss is always right, you just have to do these things, just put your head down and work. And it's kind of been bred in our generation to not have those boundaries because they were never taught to us as children to be a good thing. Newer age parenting, I can see the difference now that what we're trying to do with, even with my kids, is, say the kids don't want to give grandma or grandpa a hug, they don't have to. So having bodily autonomy, they have the right to choose if they want to give a hug or not. But when I was a kid, it's like, oh no, you go give grandma a hug because it's your grandma.
Yeah. So to jump on this, if you don't mind for a second, on this
absolutely.
hill, I would absolutely agree, and even more so, like things that we're taught often growing up is, one, time boundaries, don't bother respecting them, because even with school and stuff, you go to school, you come home, you do homework, you learn really quickly. Well, when I'm home, I still belong to school. My time still belong to something that is not mine. And that transitions much often later to, oh, I'm working and I finished work, but now that I'm home, I still have more work to do that's unpaid. I'm going to still do that because I'm supposed to. And so that's on the time, but as you mentioned, also the physical boundaries of, like, you're right, having to hug. I was expected, oh, you have to hug this person. Absolutely, it's expected. And then with people who have their own rooms or don't have their own rooms, or parents who can enter without consequence, you learn not to even value your own physical space. That you can't say, hey, this is my space. You learn, oh, anyone can come into my space, and that's okay. And we start getting more and more porous boundaries that are really hard to set. And we really don't learn how to set them, because the only people we have are our parents, or whoever our caretakers are, who model them for us, and then how our peers respect them. And growing up with everyone having different factors playing into it, it's very inconsistent for what people actually learn how to set.
Because it comes to two separate things when it comes to the emotion and the behavior of it. When we're kids, or even when we're adults, we have the emotional reaction to it. Because we have the feeling, whether we want to or not, the feeling is going to be there. However, actually verbalizing that as a behavior has been oftentimes seen as bad as a kid growing up. It's like, no, I don't want to give grandma a hug. Oh no, you will give grandma a hug because she's your family, and yada yada yada.
Yeah, and
so
that's
you're
basically
taught,
gaslighting coming in.
Yeah, you're taught to take your emotions and see them as bad, that you shouldn't have these emotions. So you learn to let other people dictate what you should or shouldn't do.
Yeah. Just like Becca said in chat too, she feels like there's always a chance to speak up and have a conversation to maybe fix things.
That is true, but you have to have an audience that is willing to listen.
True.
Or that it would even make space for you to have a voice.
Again, bringing back the TikTok. I'm pulling TikTok examples on my head here. There was a video I saw a couple months ago, and it was a mother that was talking about like newer age parenting, and how when she was parenting her kids when they were young, she made mistakes. And she said that if your kids come to you with a specific thing that happened when they were growing up, you have two choices. So if the kids come up and they say, hey mom, when we were kids, you teased us a lot and we really didn't like it. It kind of terrorized us. And we still have like difficulties with things from it, from that now. She said you had two choices. You could, one, bear down and completely invalidate what they're feeling. Of, oh no, I know what I did. It was I just showing you love. You loved it as a kid. You're lying, kind of stonewalling and not wanting to listen to the kids, and then kind of ruptures the relationship. Or you accept what the children, or now adult children, are saying and apologize. I'm sorry that it made you feel that way. It was not my intent. I thought I was doing something, but I'm glad you talked to me about it, and you're working on repairing the relationship. It really depends on who the target audience is, and some parents will not want to admit fault.
It's basically addressing either your needs, so the parent not wanting to acknowledge it and validating it is like, I'm going to look out for myself and my needs versus then, you know what, I'm going to put my pride aside, or I'm actually going to allow that, hey, there's some accountability here.
And once that conversation happens, that is kind of what dictates what type of boundary we need to set with that particular parent. Because if you have the proof of this parent will invalidate you, not listen to how you feel, will continue to hurt you, you still have a choice of, do I let this person continue to be in my life in this way, continue to harm me, or do I hold myself back and I put these boundaries in place in order to protect myself? And for a lot of people, that is very hard, because we are hardwired to love and accept our parents.
Well, that's those close relationships, you know. That's setting those boundaries, can be extremely tough, especially with family.
A lot of my clients, it takes years, like decades, to actually set like a minuscule boundary with a parent because of the pushback they can often receive. Well, how can you shut out your mom? She's your mom.
Both the societal and peer impact of that, of like, oh, well, and then, of course, always comparison to, well, my parents didn't do anything that badly, therefore it's not warranting cutting them out or, like, putting these boundaries, because what if I hurt them? And then it's also that concern, too, of how am I presenting this relationship?
Then we have our self-sacrificers who will say that they will set an internal boundary just because they can't cut out the person. They may not be able to, for whatever reason.
What about that, like, false guilt, too, that could come from it? Like, I'm speaking from a personal experience where I've set a boundary and was like, no, I can't. Oh. And they guilt you into doing it anyways.
They victimize themselves, you mean?
Yeah. You don't worry.
So it's a form of emotional manipulation.
Yeah.
So boundary setting touches on assertiveness. And it's a complicated dynamic when it comes to who those types of people are, because you tend to have like 3 types of people within the continuum of assertiveness. So on one end you have people that are passive, on the opposite end you have people that are aggressive, and kind of somewhere in the middle that kind of fluctuates, that it is assertiveness. There's kind of a 4th underpinning one, which is passive aggressiveness. Generally people that are very passive, their needs and wants never get met. They get really frustrated, but rather than actually verbalizing it, they will try to verbalize it through action. And people are not very perceptive, so they will not get the hints, kind of add into the frustration and the turmoil. But oftentimes, we see the most confliction between someone that is very passive and someone that is aggressive. The person that is aggressive tends to always get their needs met, whereas the passive person tends to always give to everyone else's needs. And as soon as the passive person starts becoming assertive, there is a spike of behavior coming from the aggressive person because their needs are no longer being met. And that spike is trying to overwhelm the person to them go back to being passive. Because that person is changing the script.
I often explain it to people that when they first set boundaries with parents or anything, to expect in children about the extinction burst, if you know of behavior, that when they get their needs met, yay, and then you stop reinforcing behavior, when they cry, you no longer get what they wanted, and they learn crying isn't good the answer. At first they will cry more. I find that often with setting boundaries, same thing, you set a boundary and then like, wait, if I do the thing more that I was doing, do I still get what I want out of this? And if one of the challenging parts I've come across a lot of people I've worked with is in that moment, it's absolutely integral that they stand firm on boundaries, because as soon as you set a boundary and then you like maybe not, they learn, oh, we can walk over these boundaries and that's okay. It becomes harder and harder to set them.
Yeah. And also thinking about ripples of change and how eventually when you start to change, it might take a little bit to get to that other person to understand that this is going to be a consistent thing. So if you fall through and fall short and you give up, then yeah, they're going to realize you're just all talk. You're not really actually going to sit by your boundaries, which I think goes full circle back to the beginning. Like, it's hard to sustain them and it's hard to uphold them.
Mm-hmm. And I also find a lot of people that I've worked with downplay the like boundary crossing versus boundary violation. I'm not sure how many people use the same language with that, so I don't should do a quick what that actually means, or are we all good on that?
I don't know. Sometimes I guess I should ask that too. Like, that's very polite of you. Thank you.
So boundary crossing to me is just the if you tell your friend, hey, I go to sleep at 9 p.m., please don't call me after 9 p.m. And at midnight, they call you, hey, got in a car accident, please come get me. Okay, they crossed your boundary, but there was a reason, no malintent, like it's a one-time thing. But if that same friend every day called you at midnight, 1 a.m., hey, come out drinking, hey, do this, and you kept trying to reinforce it, that would be a boundary violation, where they are crossing your boundary in an almost intentional manner of they are disrespecting it. And so with boundary crossings, often it just takes a reminder, hey, this is my boundary. Like, I'm glad to be able to help you, but just remember this is what my boundaries are. Usually pretty easy to reinforce. But when they continuously do boundary violations, that takes a much firmer response of, okay, what am I going to do to reinforce this boundary? Because me just telling it to them isn't sufficient.
And oftentimes when you verbalize, you set the boundary, you reaffirm the boundary, and the person's not wanting to listen, there might need to come a reevaluation of that particular relationship.
Mm-hmm. And quite often, how I explain it to clients is that there is quite often only one thing you truly have control over in a relationship: how you present, how you show up. And so if that's your only bargaining chip in a relationship, sometimes the consideration is, do I remove this? Do I stop showing up in the same way? What am I going to do to reinforce the boundary? Because if the other person doesn't care how you're reinforcing it, to them, it doesn't matter that you're reinforcing or not, they're not listening. So if it's your company they're after, retracting your company. If it's something you do for them, retracting it, making sure that your boundaries are firm and that they know these are not, like, if this is crossed, there is something that happens.
I'm thinking about the things that,
no, go ahead.
I was just thinking about, like, what would make someone ignore, downplay, disregard someone's boundary. Like, what motivation do they have?
Well,
Their
from
own personal needs.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't care.
Entitlement, I was thinking.
Entitlements, and also see from the other side, like, why do we downplay boundary violations just to boundary crossings? Because that's a huge thing. They're like, oh, well, it wasn't that bad. They've only done it every day for the past 6 months. It's not that bad. And like the
justification.
Minimizing everything, and just also the general millennial attitude of like, my emotions don't matter. Theirs are more important.
Mm-hmm. And that's where that continuum, that passive, assertive, aggressive, really comes into play. The person that is aggressive typically does not care about who they walk over, or what boundary they need to trample over to get what they want. Because at the end of the day, they need, or they want to get that need met. I often give the example with my own clients of someone that's aggressive is not necessarily someone that is angry, but think of a used car salesman. They're going to wheel and deal you and give you, hey, if you just spend X amount more, we'll give you like the 4 winter tires and an extended warranty. They're not doing that from the goodness of their heart. They're doing that because they're wanting to upsell you because they get a bigger commission.
Self-motivated.
Oh, absolutely. So they don't care who they have to swindle, just as long as they get that big paycheck at the end.
And so to pose this question to, because I have to admit I'm not familiar with everyone here and where your all's roles and everything is, but how do you address it when when you come across someone who's working on setting boundaries and having trouble with that first step of like, how do I first set a boundary? What is it you recommend they do?
It's a great question.
And you brought up a point, we didn't introduce ourselves.
Did.
I was assuming that might have happened before I got on here, and I was like, oh, I missed it because I was like 2 minutes late. Oh no.
Well, for me, the way I tend to approach it is really evaluating what their wants, their needs are, the things that they feel, what their values are. Because if we can really get that in a concrete way, we have a foundation to build on. Because if they don't know what they want, well, how are you going to set a boundary that's kind of willy-nilly up in the air?
I really like that approach. Oh, sorry, please.
No, go ahead. I was going to have a different answer.
I just really like that approach because through a lot of ACT, just like the values, what do you value? What is it you're looking at in this relationship? What is it doing for you? If you let your boundaries be crossed and violated, are you still getting that even? And what are you even looking for? I really like that approach.
I was going to say, I mean, I don't know if I'm jumping here, but in thinking about how would you set a boundary with if you're actually struggling with even being, with coming from like a healthy frame of thought. That also might be a thing, because if your need is connection and you're then allowing this other person to do that, that might be another question. But still, an understanding, sometimes people enable actually or accommodate other people, and they're part of the problem as to why the boundaries keep getting crossed and violated.
That's when we delve into trauma work.
Attachment work too, maybe.
Oftentimes when people find validation in that way, it comes from trauma or maladaptive attachment because of oftentimes like a fawning response. Because they just want to subdue the threat, so they don't care what would happen, just as long as it's not the worst case scenario. Like, oh well, it's only just $5, just $10. You think of like the kid on the playground that the bully wants to get the lunch money from. Well, is not getting beat up worth $5 for that kid? Probably. But they don't eat lunch.
And then also there's the concern of escalation over time. The more your boundaries are crossed, the more porous they become. You get used to not having boundaries, and then what was a simple $5 becomes 10, 15, becomes further and further. And then, of course, approaching that is a whole separate thing with anxiety of approaching and conflict and all that. And I've learned, well, I've experienced a lot of my clients that one of the main issues of setting boundaries is conflict avoidance. And how do you actually sit down and have that conversation of, here's what's important to me, but I don't want to fight about it. I just want to let you know what's important to me. And finding that middle ground to where it's comfortable doing that.
Yeah, so like based on their experience, like how often do they actually do that? And if they have done it, going back to the parent example, like if I've been shut down every time, I feel defeated, so I'm going to submit. I might have that like angry side that wants to advocate, but nothing ever changes.
And oftentimes the aggressive individual, certainly if we're talking about someone that's very abusive, is going to flip the narrative. Like, oh, you're not being assertive, you're being aggressive. Look at you, like screaming or making these demands and just flipping the narrative on the person. So it's no longer becoming on what they're doing, it's how they're acting and behaving. Which is another emotional manipulation tactic.
Exactly. I was gonna say, so to answer my own question, it's also it's the degree of practice you have in having to think quickly when you're already activated. Like if someone already has you in a position where you have to assert yourself or have a boundary, how often are you actually practicing setting that? So even if it doesn't go smoothly the first time, doesn't mean you should not do it and keep doing it.
That's why I love doing the corrective emotional experience in therapy of like, let's set a boundary in here. Let's see what happens with someone who's respecting you, and you set the boundary and we talk about it, discuss it, see what the conversation typically, I hate the word should for so many reasons, but should look like, and then be able to, okay, how can we model that here? Then how can we model it outside of here with people that you trust? Start with friends. And what I've noticed is one of the biggest concerns with people when setting boundaries with people like they love in relationships, because we all know important, like all healthy relationships should have some boundaries in them, just period.
Oh, absolutely.
But the idea of like, oh, I need to set a boundary. What if they don't like me because I set a boundary? And kind of normalizing boundaries, like these are things normal in relationships to set, and then you can set them with your friends, and that's okay. And the best part is then learning their boundaries too, and you can grow the friendship and become more intimate by setting boundaries rather than just not doing it at all.
And certainly if you're setting a boundary and you lose a friendship because of boundary, what were you actually gaining from that particular relationship? Who had the more to gain or to lose?
Well, then you also talk about when people actually break up and come back together. So like it's also like what did you release, but then what did you also bring back and invite and re-invite back in?
Because I've heard a lot of people in my office say, oh, well, I attract these type of people, or it's just who I am. These people gravitate towards me. And
I hear that a lot.
It's not true. We do not attract people. There is no like physical mechanism of us attracting people other than like pheromones and lust.
No Velcro?
We accept.
Small gravitational pull.
Yeah, we accept people.
Small gravitational pull.
We accept people. We accept behavior because it's familiar to us. And we accept the repercussions and kind of what comes from those things.
So it's like you have to pay attention to what role you play, but also being aware when it's happening to begin with.
Because the behavior that the person is doing, it is them. They're at fault for their behavior. But we also need, if we're wanting to do work and grow, we need to understand what are the things I accept. Do I accept someone calling me all of these names and or derogatory names, or to be physically violent with me? Because a lot of people, even though they feel that they shouldn't have these things happen in their life, they accept them. They feel stuck because of a variety of circumstances.
And I think that comes back to the question of self-efficacy, or the ability to believe in oneself and one's ability, for the idea of like, can I even set these boundaries? And the same way, if you tell someone, hey, go flap your wings, you can fly, they're gonna be like, no, I'm not doing that, that's silly. If you tell someone, hey, set boundaries, and they have no belief that they can, then it's really hard to have them set them and stick with them. And that's been the harder part of much of the work that I've done, because I've worked with quite a few clients on boundaries. It's the first, can you even set them? And once they do, then there's a whole lot of a shift of like, oh, I set one, let's set another, and another, and then, like, it's that initial push that seems to be incredibly difficult.
No, it's this cat today. Sorry, guys.
Will you introduce your cat? Also, should we do introductions at some point?
If you would, yeah, absolutely. Because everybody knows
an hour into the conversation.
our
Sure.
faces.
Yeah. We'll start with Mittens.
Yep.
This is
Hello, Mittens.
Aw, he's so cute.
Makes an appearance every stream, every chat.
I think Oliver was the one that did. That's why I said this is the other one.
Finally, we have this one that's comfortable now with coming over on camera.
Adriana, I'm a licensed professional counselor. I'm in the Midwest, not quite where I need. What are the lights that you were talking about earlier? I don't need that just quite yet because I'm in Wisconsin. I'm part of the development team and just having fun.
This is no good way to decide who goes next on Zoom because it just.
I'll go.
Sure.
My name's Joe Telesk. I am the founder and executive director of Guardians Mental Health. I am not a mental health professional, but I am a crisis counselor. I volunteer my time with Crisis Text Line. I also am a suicide prevention instructor with QPR Institute. I go to local universities and do talks on suicide prevention and kind of histories of suicide as well. And I'm just an average Joe. That's about it.
Oh, you're more than an average Joe.
It's what I say. You know, I'm average compared to all of you. No.
I was gonna say, how many times do you say that in a day? Because I could not. If my name was Joe, I could not resist saying that constantly.
I only say it when it's associated with Guardians Mental Health. I'm just an average Joe because I'm surrounded by so many amazing people and everything. I am literally just the average Joe. I do paperwork.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Fully
you are the
Chewbacca
paperwork.
it's actually his gamer tag. Yes, it is.
It is
Yeah.
my gamer tag. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I'm the
He
buffer between everything.
Joe is the paperwork.
Yeah, I handle the lawyers, accountants, all that other stuff, and all of our stuff that we have to
And
do
we
for the state,
appreciate
the
you
federal
for it.
government,
Yes, we do.
and then
Yeah, that
programs.
does not sound average to me.
It's pretty average to me compared to what you all do. I'm looking from inside my box out, and it's like, yeah, I know this realm, but what you all do every day is absolutely amazing, and it's what we all try to do at Guardians Mental Health with helping promote mental health awareness, but also seeking, professional, help, going to therapy and counseling and starting your journey and making people feel comfortable with it and destigmatizing talking about mental health and creating programs and developing new programs to help boost accessibility to meaningful resources. And we also just launched a new program called Thrive XP, which works directly with developers and studios with implementing that accessibility in game for their player bases, which we have a call next Tuesday on, just so you know, Doc. With a gaming
Send me
studio.
I don't think I can make because it's actually during office hours.
Yeah, our program lead, it's 10 a.m. for him. Mark's like, oh. It's early to be talking about coding. But, no.
I'll give you the Cliff Notes.
Yeah. Doc, why don't you go next, and then we'll bring it over to Jody, and then David.
Oh, so you're going to have me do the spiel.
Uh-huh.
So, I am Dr. John Dick Williams, better known as Dr. Goku. I am the Vice President and Program Director with Guardians Mental Health. In my day job, I am a licensed clinical psychologist. I run my own private practice. And I am a certified geek therapist, a problematic gaming specialist, and I hold a international classification for gaming disorder.
Neat.
How about
Neat.
It was just
Neat.
I kept going. I was like, that's so many different things. I'm still like processing all of it.
Dude, David, he drove me crazy with his business cards. You know how many
so many letters.
we had to change the font, just because. And it's like, dude, do you really need all of that on your card? And he's like, well, yeah.
Yeah. He does.
PSYD, L Sykes, CGT, PS.
Stop.
I forget all the acronyms.
He's got a lot of titles. He's got to uphold that. You got to show it off somehow.
Burrito.
I mean, I am all for showing off and for hyping
I have to
each
pay
other
off the
so.
student loans.
Right. Oh, so we're bringing it to me, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
Jody's time.
Hi. My name is Jody. I'm known as the Empress Jody here on Twitch. I am an ambassador for Guardians MH. As we were talking about at the beginning of stream, I helped out with the booth at PAX East this year and had a blast. And I want to do it again next year. And I want to go all 4 days because it's during my birthday next year. So that's going to make it way more special for me to be there. And being with this group, couldn't have asked for a better group.
Jody is amazing, amazing, and especially with her community. She is very open, and her peer support and just the support from her community is just bar none one of the best out there. It is such a welcoming, safe space every time she's on stream. Even though she's like killing hordes of monsters, it's still
I do it with a smile.
a very comfortable atmosphere, and she makes everybody feel right at home.
Because it is their second home. If they don't have a good one, you can come to mine. I got plenty of room. My empire is huge. Lots of space for everybody.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
Go ahead, David.
I guess I'll jump in. I'm David Adashek. I am an LGPC, so between getting my independent licensure, I actually am just opening up my own private practice, but I specialize in the LGBTQ community as well as couples, poly, kink, E&M, all that. Kind of my specialty is. Let's see, I have the world's smallest YouTube channel I need to grow a little bit and put more content into that's all about providing psych information for people who do not have a psych background. So that's just a fun little side hobby I do every occasionally when I have the spoons to do so. I think like 2 or 3 years ago, I met some of you all at PAX. I'm trying to remember who was there, who I actually talked to, who learned about you all and just really hopped on the dev team. So, yeah, that's, I guess, who I am. I think I covered all the bases. Just 4 letters right now, but it'll upgrade to 4 different letters later.
What would it only be?
What was that?
What's it going to be?
It goes from LGPC to LCPC. Big difference, you know? Cross out a little of the G and we're good.
Interesting.
Just take an eraser to it.
And here you are, and we're working on something special for next month, and you haven't helped us with any of the resources yet. I'm very disappointed, David. No.
I mean, I did send in the Discord like 2 months ago a few ideas to it, and then I dropped off the face of the earth as a bunch of stuff happened, and then I just came back recently, like a week ago, to Discord. So I said, oh, I can hop on this chat. So
You know what? And that's the great thing about it. Burned by Joe. That's the great thing about it. We're all volunteer based. Life happens. We all get busy. You know, every one of us. You know, life gets thrown at us. We have unexpected things that happen. We share our time and volunteer our time with Guardians Mental Health as a whole to make a difference for other individuals down the road, provide meaningful resources and accessibility and everything like that. But we do it when we have time. There's no hard, like, you're not punching in a clock, it's very casual, and we're very understanding with that. We know things happen. I mean, even Doc trying to get an answer out of that one in a timely manner is almost impossible because he sees like 96 clients a week. So he literally...
Really?
No.
How many clients do you have?
I actually dropped my caseload down. Right now I'm closing on 80, but I was closing on 100 clients.
That was in March. So this was a recent development.
Yeah, so
here.
I whittled it down close to 80. But on a typical week, in 4 days, I see around 23 to 27 in 4 days.
Ah, okay.
Okay, because I was going to say, you can't... What?
Yeah, I see about between...
He doesn't eat, he doesn't sleep.
Amounts.
He just sees clients.
He's a constant source of support.
Straight through
taking
lunch.
care of 2 sick kids.
And then the topic of boundaries. Here we are.
Yeah.
So how are those
As I
time
say,
boundaries?
not as I do.
Good one.
That makes sense. Now that you say it that way.
Even Gone
Yeah,
Show, just
well,
like, dude,
when
you
you
had
think-
me scared when you said with 80 clients a week.
when you think about it, mental health professionals, we are human, and we kind of go into this field. We need to set the boundaries, but it's so hard to set those boundaries.
It takes time.
Because I have on my Psychology Today profiles like not taking any new clients, and then I get a sob email. I was like, fuck. Sure, I can see you in 2 weeks.
Because we're helpers.
Yeah, and I mean it's so difficult right now, and I know this is a different topic, but we have people reaching out to us all the time who have been on wait lists or just stonewalled trying to get in to see a professional. Even going through the proper channels with talking to their primary, discussing it with them first, getting referral lists and everything, and those referral lists, a lot of the time are dead ends, and they just don't pick up the phone. A lot of these offices, to the point where they'll reach out to us, struggling, not knowing where to look, and we'll start assisting them. And several times, I personally had them send me the referral list, and I've contacted these offices for them, and I've gotten through a couple times, and they ask, you're speaking on behalf of this person, this and that. I go, yeah, this individual has tried to contact your office for 3 weeks and called you 5 days a week. No one answered. Why? And I never get an answer, but it's because everyone is so... Try and see any professional right now, not just mental health professional. Try and make a dentist appointment.
It's like 6 to 12 months.
It's regionally based too, so that's why I was actually asking about your license. And different regions have different opportunities, and most actually share that, which is that they're full.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I know for us, because I'm in private practice, we tend to have a shorter wait list or easier time taking on clients because we kind of take on those sob stories and feel bad. But in the public sector, when I used to work in the public sector, it was like 2 to 3 years.
That's crazy.
Ooh.
18 months.
And this was pre-COVID. This was back in like 2012.
I will say that is a positive thing that came from COVID is teletherapy. The advancements in teletherapy. Because before COVID, prior COVID, it was good, but it was kind of shaky. But the development that went into it from COVID took huge leaps. I mean, it must have jumped 5 years just in that 1 year span in just development and just growth. I mean, not growth as many volume of people using it, but I'm speaking on the behalf of like technology and advancements in being able to provide teletherapy in a positive, beneficial way, where it's
because we had like FaceTime and Zoom,
right,
and you had old school Skype, so we had those options, but they weren't secure.
Right.
Yeah,
they weren't HIPAA compliant.
Mm-hmm.
And now there is. And
there are options that are HIPAA compliant.
Yep. So a lot of the time when people reach out to us, we'll try and reach out for a local office, help assist them with finding, getting in with somebody locally to them. But in the time being, we can kind of tie them over with teletherapy. And they're able to get in to at least see somebody or talk to somebody while they're on their wait list, so they can have some sort of outlet without just sitting there feeling like the world forgot about them.
And it also depends on the needs of the person,
right,
what they're looking for, because sometimes people think, oh, I need to go see a psychologist or I need to go see a psychiatrist, when they can do just fine with a counselor or a therapist, a social worker, licensed marriage and family therapist, because they all do therapy. If you don't have like a specific need for a psychologist, because our wait lists tend to be longer because of how like more specialized we are in certain things, go see a therapist, go see a counselor.
Now that brings me to another point with that and being on waitlist, a lot of people have relied on peer-to-peer support, which is fantastic. I love seeing peer-to-peer support, having that support network and this and that, but this brings us right back around to boundaries, because opening yourself up, and I've seen several situations just since the beginning of the year. It's great, especially from a content creator's point of view, or stance. Talking to your community and saying, if you ever need to talk, and I know Jody does this too. I've seen her streams, and she's very open and welcoming to people. But I've seen people see it go down a very negative way, where you open it up to your viewers and community. If you need to talk, feel free to reach out. Well, you may get that one individual who attaches themselves to you, and it sinks into their head that you offered it. That's what I want, and you're not talking to me. But you also have to think too, this one person, unfortunately I'm gonna use Jody as an example just because she's right here.
Scapegoat Jody.
Jody will open that invitation up to her viewers and community, being a supportive, open individual, offering that support network. She'll get 10 DMs from people, or people just wanting to vent and talk, and that's great. But that's 10 people. Now, number 11, it becomes overwhelming. And then 12, and then 13. And then 13 never gets a reply within a day. And now they start having aggression because they're not, you offered this, and why aren't you talking? You know what I'm trying to say? I don't want to ramble on, but it's those boundaries that you kind of like put yourself in that hole where now you have to dig yourself out. But that's where setting boundaries is super important from that standpoint.
So just as much as we're talking about setting the boundaries, we also have to mention like what's important to know when you have to accept a boundary that someone else is setting on you. So in having someone give you the no, and how then you digest that, because that's also part of it too.
One of the ways I bring it up with clients quite often is the conversation of, when you put a boundary on someone, is it about your needs or is it about that person? And typically the answer is it's about your needs. Like, hey, like I have low energy on Fridays after whatever, like I can't talk to you right then. It's about your needs, not about them as a person. And so learning to take boundaries as less personal attacks and more, oh, that's their needs, okay, and shift, using a little CBT to shift the lens of focus into what they're actually saying when they state, I need to set a boundary on this. Is it a rejection of you, or is it them reinforcing their needs? I know sometimes it's a rejection of the person, but it is, like, it's important to acknowledge that. But quite often it is not, but in a darker mental space, it could definitely seem like that. To, oh, they're not going to be there for me, it's because I am too much.
To not personalize it, in other words.
Yeah,
it depends on the person, it depends on the circumstance.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people that are in that high need mindset might not care about another person's boundary, because as long as their emotional needs are being met, they don't care who they're being trampled on, and that's where a lot of the trauma dumping comes in.
And that's
because it comes into that parasocial relationship, kind of comes into these circumstances of, like Joe had mentioned, Jody opened this door and just it opens the floodgates. And that's where streamers need to set that boundary of, I'm not your therapist, I'm here to have a conversation, but this is not something that can hijack my stream. And I'm not the person to help you with this.
And I actually have said that on stream. It's like, look, it's like, I'm not a licensed therapist in any sense. If there's something you need to talk to me about, shoot me a DM. We'll talk about it after stream. we're not gonna discuss it right now. I don't like doing this, discussing those things for everybody to hear. My best friend who's in the UK, we talk in DMs every day. And if comes into my stream and I ask him, how you doing? He'll give me like a few words, but if it's about something we've talked about already, I'll just say to him, I'll talk to you after stream, and we'll get into more detail. We'll talk more about it, then you can give me all the more details and everything. He's always so cool about that. And a lot of my other community members, they're the same way. I'll tell them, it's like, if, I always use the word if, you want to talk about it, send me a DM, we'll discuss after stream. 95% of the time, they don't. So, and I'm not going to go chasing them about it either. It's like, they don't want to talk about it, they don't want to talk about it. You know what? Fine with me, no skin off my nose. I'm good. I can move on and tackle another problem with something else.
So a difficult question to actually ask, for at least I consider difficult, is how do you approach then situations where you thought you had energy for something, so you set the boundary, we'll talk later, and then you realize at that later point that you misjudged at some point your own energy and you need to change the boundary with someone. How would you suggest people go about doing that, this for anyone here, and to work on the ability for dynamic boundaries?
All right, I'm gonna answer this one. Because my best friend and I, it's like, he and I swear to God, we're pretty much like this. We're almost same level. When I go back to talk to him about what it was that I said we talk about and everything, we'll go into Discord in a private channel that I have set aside for just me and him to have our discussions and everything. And when I get in there, the first thing he asks me, how are you? I said, I'm a little tired, not gonna lie, the stream took a lot out of me, but I told you I would talk to you, so I will talk to you. And it's like, if I fade out, don't be offended. He goes, no. He goes, no, I totally get it. He goes, I know in your voice when you're tired. And if I know you're not responding too well, we'll drop it. We'll pick it up another time. And I'm so glad he understands me. He gets me, I get him. So he knows how to tell me, you need to shut down. I can tell. So someone who has my back, he knows my boundaries, I know his. So we don't have a problem with anything. And so that's good.
So it sounds like that as soon as you realize it, you update the expectations from, I know this is the boundary I set, I'll still follow it. However, here's a caveat coming in of my energy level is different than expected. So you set very early on expectations, so it's not a sudden drop off of like, I'm not talking to you, but rather, I'll do my best.
Yep.
Transparency.
That's what I was missing.
Yep. And he totally gets it. It's just sometimes we may have had a chat at one point, but we don't get to continue it for like a few hours because either one, I'm at work, or two, he's sleeping and I'm not at work. So it's just like, all right, we'll pick it up whenever. And it's like, and I just put it in the back of my head, move on to what else I got to do.
Yeah. Then you also have those individuals who don't have that relationship with somebody and they reach out for that support network. One thing that I try to suggest to people, and I practice myself, if somebody reaches out to me or needs to talk, I try to be kind of self-aware, and before I dive into any sort of conversation, I look ahead to see if I have time to dedicate to it, because there's nothing worse in my mind that you start a conversation with somebody, allow them kind of to talk, vent, whatever the case may be, and you're either distracted, your mind somewhere else, or you have to go in 5 minutes and that's it, and they get cut off abruptly. And it feels terrible to do that to somebody, but also on the receiving end of it, it really leaves like a negative impact on them. Like you're not feel, almost leaves them feeling like their feelings aren't valid. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But that's where you have to set those clear expectations of, look, I only have like 20 minutes and I have to leave because I have to go pick up my mom at the airport or whatever. We can chat for 20, but we have to condense this into 20 minutes. And this is something that often happens in therapy. So while it varies in terms of how long certain clinicians do their therapeutic sessions, I typically do or try to do like a 50 to 55 minute hour. And often some people will drop something in the last like 5 minutes. Like,
real hot potato, like, ooh,
yeah, so
there's a nugget right there.
And it's learning on, I know it took a lot out of you to actually verbalize this. I know this is a very sensitive topic, but unfortunately we don't have time to touch on this. So I'm going to mark myself a note, and we will touch on this during our next session.
Typically, I also add humor in because I don't know if it's always colloquially known as this, but we call it doorknob therapy.
Oh, absolutely.
We
call it door frame therapy.
Ah, yeah, close enough. Oh yeah, I've sold my house and moving to Vegas, bye! And I'm like, thanks for dropping that on me as you leave. And usually, what I love about that is, one, making notes come back to the next session. Yes, I was listening. Not only that, I'm curious in why it was the end of the session that we brought it up, and bring in the typical avoidance that comes with it of like, have this, I'm leaving, and when that comes up. But also, I use humor with a lot of my clients and laughing about the fact that, yeah, you did drop that with just a few minutes left. There was nothing I could have done there to have helped process that before you walked out the door. So, like, we'll laugh about it together and move on through a lot of the time.
To diffuse it, just because it's also, you want to point out that you noticed something and you want to talk about it, but you can't. And so it's also in the hopes of not, like, offending them or hurting them.
But there are times where people will drop these like bombs in the last 5 minutes, and ethically you have no choice but to address them. And it kind of puts the therapist at this difficult dynamic of, well, I have another client in the waiting room right now, and I have to go tell the clients, hey, sorry, I have an emergency. Can we reschedule to, and again, this is where I tend to overstep my own boundaries of, can you come back in an hour and I'll see you during my lunch break?
We're so self-sacrificing.
Again, do as I say, not as I do. But it's the thing that happens of, you kind of have this ethical responsibility of, oh yeah, I have 5 minutes left, and oh yeah, I have a plan to kill myself tomorrow. Well, shit.
Yeah. And I would say as like I'm sorry, I've worked with veterans before, so I was going to say, so I was a civilian, like, but as a civilian, you would then also not be held to those standards or that expectation. So even though like we're sharing that we might do that, we have licenses that make us, that we have agreed to agree with, to do that sort of stuff. But even in just recognizing, like, if you're short on time, and someone is trying to emotionally dump on you, or not really even that, because I don't like saying that too much, because, people's feelings are valid. So just even getting straight to the point,
feelings are valid,
what do you need?
Behaviors aren't.
What do you need from me? Do you want me to listen to you? Do you want me to give you advice, like suggestions, or what? So that the time that you do have with whoever is used productively.
If it's non-crisis, so not I am going to commit suicide, I have a plan, all this stuff, I also will typically say, I see you dropped this. If you want, like, I'll follow up with an email. Would you like to schedule a second session this week? If needed, if I have a cancellation, absolutely. And usually I get the response of, oh no, we can meet next week about it. I just wanted to let you know. I'm like, perfect. We'll talk about it when you come back in.
So yeah, sometimes it's actually because I've been on the other end too, and just like being someone that takes some time to get to be vulnerable, and then around the 35-minute mark is when I tend to start seeing someone is like, okay, they've been in the room, they're here, now they're talking. So I could understand why somebody would want to drop something like that, and I would just bring it back to like, uh, how they actually work with their people and in their social circle and how often they might do that. Like I would make it clinical, but as a person, it's what responsibility do you have? I think that would be important for someone to know. And then what do you do then?
I think to bring this, well, I'm sorry, please.
No, go ahead.
I think to bring this full circle, I was like, setting boundaries, and how do we do it as professionals sometimes? And for me, it's just very clear expectations in the beginning that, like, I let people know as part of more informed consent. Like, yeah, I do 55-minute sessions. Like, that 5 minutes between, like, I need that, and I explain that to them. And that's, like, I'm not going to kick them out of the room, but, like, I'll be closing up that session at that time. And if they find themselves, like, at 35 minutes in, 45 minutes in, that's when they feel like they can be vulnerable, that I usually then ask, okay, what can we do to make that time earlier for you, that we can get you comfortable sooner to be able to address these things?
We should just give you your LCPC. Like, you just get it.
I have a few hundred hours left, I think, of just like, at this point it's a formality. I need to wait a certain amount of time before I'm allowed to submit for it, and so
I'm glad that you saw that as a compliment.
And
wait, was it not?
No, it was. It was.
Okay.
But what you're saying in terms of the boundaries as a professional are completely different than the boundaries that you are not being a professional.
Yeah. They just are. And I mean, even in my personal private life, I might set different boundaries. And I also might accept things that I normally wouldn't accept from like a client.
Like for me, I always tell clients, you can send me an email at any hour of the day. However, I will not answer that email any hour of the day. It might take me 24 to 48 business hours to get back to you.
Almost said days, yeah. That was close.
Just because, yeah, I've had clients like send me novels. Like, yeah, I'm not answering that at like 2 a.m.
No.
Why are you looking at your phone at 2 a.m.? You should be sleeping.
Because
We're learning all sorts of boundaries that you.
Oh yeah, when we're playing games, when we were doing Destiny raids,
Okay.
doing it 2 a.m. It's like just one more try.
Yeah. I think that's a T-shirt. Yeah.
I just want the "You Died" T-shirt from Elden Ring or Dark Souls, because I finally managed to platinum it last night at like, I don't want to know what clock in the morning. And I was like, oh, I'm just so close to a few more achievements. It's almost 3 a.m. I can fit this in. I don't need to do anything tomorrow, right?
Yeah. 3 a.m. It's sitting. Now you hear birds chirping. And you're like, I got it. It's like, ooh.
I felt that in my soul. That hurt.
We've all been there.
Oh, we've all been there.
There's
Just
no
one more try,
other feeling than when you hear the birds chirping and it's like you're just going to bed. It's like, no.
I know, it's like, I love birds. Birds are great, but there's nothing I loathe more than the 6 a.m., 5 a.m. bird chirp of like, there went my sleep schedule for the week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But to go back then, I just want to bring up like setting boundaries in like daily life versus a therapeutic setting feels, for me, like more difficult, because as a professional, I set a boundary as professional, but then in my daily life, to basically empathize with all of my clients, yeah, like it's much harder with your friends and family to set boundaries, because you always, as I said in the very beginning, downplaying and being like, well, this was a crossing, this wasn't a violation, I don't need this boundary, they're more important, it's just one more person coming to me for help. And like,
because you're emotionally invested.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's why you can't treat family.
Dual relations. Really, yeah.
Well, we've been chatting for an hour and 20 minutes now. We usually try to keep these around an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, so we're 20 minutes over. I blame David. No.
It's
It's my first one. I'll take.
We ramble on. It's
no,
normal.
yeah, it is very
This is
normal.
actually, you actually caught it a lot earlier than I thought you would.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was trying to be mindful.
Didn't we have a podcast once that we went like 3 hours?
More. It was like 3.5, 4 hours.
Normally
Something crazy.
It was like an hour podcast. We're at like hour 3.5.
Yeah. It was just such an organic, just fun conversation. Like this. This has just been an absolute blast, and my cheeks hurt from smiling so much. You really hate to just end it, just because they're just so much fun. I love these casual talks and everything. I mean, I've been a part of conversations and meetings and stuff where it's very stuffy. So having a very casual, like, talking about these sort of topics in a casual, like, environment is just wonderful to do. And yeah, we ramble and we derail often, but that's the fun part of it, because we don't have to follow that very strictly. It's a very casual conversation, and any conversation on this is just helping normalize talking about mental health, and it's okay. And I tell you the truth, I am absolutely fascinated how, just listening to all the professionals talk about what you all go through, and how you relate to setting boundaries, and that's that workspace, boundaries right there, because it could be extremely difficult, especially for professionals, mental health professionals, and counselors and everybody in that field, to set those boundaries. Just as much so as it would be for content creators, opening up that that peer-to-peer support to their communities and those safe spaces and everything, and not having boundaries in place and adhering to those boundaries, and then also making sure people are aware that be self-aware of the boundaries as well, that they may be crossing it. But I do want to wrap us up. Does anybody have any final thoughts or anything that they would like to share before we leave?
Well, I see you put up the time boundary
I did.
with wrapping up.
Yeah.
Nice.
I did.
We support that.
We support
even
that.
though it was
We
a slight
do.
crossing unintentionally, but did go over that hour.
Yeah. Well, only 20 minutes. It could be
done
worse. Yep.
Mhm.
Y'all were on a roll, and I was so just into the conversation, and we had to bring it back to boundaries, but it was like I could sit there and listen for another hour, probably longer. I've had caffeine, so I could go till 2 a.m.
You would have
so.
heard
But
more.
but Joe, we're gonna ask you that you don't, please.
Yeah, I probably won't. I'll probably dive into. Actually, I actually have work I got to do tonight after this. I have to go through and check all of our resources for the RTS library to make sure that they are all correct, accurate, and active, which is something that we do throughout the year. But since we have a thing coming up next week, me and Mark have to go through absolutely everything to make sure everything is right. That way, if we do go forward with a form of the Thrive XP, that it's ready, because there's different ways for implementation that studios and developers can do with providing accessibility, like one way that we did with Bungie Studios, and another way that we've done with Plane. There are two different ends of the spectrum, and one of them is essentially taking all of the resources and accessibility with the RTS bot, which is available on Twitch, Discord, web browsers, our app, and has over 268 resources available, and putting that accessibility right into the game, which is easier than it thinks, but we have to make sure that nobody gets like a 404 error code because a resource is not available anymore, which does happen periodically. Resources, links change, update, websites go down, whatever the case may be. Yeah, I have to check all those.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for having me here. I know it's the first one I've attended. I'll try to come to more of these because this was a lot of fun. It's just it was just a lot of fun chatting about stuff that we all can use.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, these round tables are always a lot of fun.
Yes, and we have another one that's actually coming up in on the 15th of May. That is going to be, the topic is connecting between mind and body. And this was suggested by another professional and development team that will, I believe, She Snaps is going to be coming on to talk on that one as well. And a few other guests. I think Gong? Are you going to be on that one? Gong Show Dad possibly will be on that one as well. So we'll have a full crew for that one, and then we're also going to do one for Memorial Day as well. For invite veterans and everybody on to talk about Memorial Day. We do it every year, and it's a great opportunity to bring awareness and then also honor those who we've lost, and it's very impactful. But we do have a lot of veterans that actually work with us at Guardians Mental Health on our ambassador teams, and then our team as well. So it's also great. Maybe we can get Blake on that one too. Actually, we'll have to poke Blake. Yeah, Blake is our other director.
Spend a night doing it rather than studying for his EPPP.
Maybe. His test isn't until June 5th or something like that. He's got time. There's that
test is a monster.
It is.
There's only 15 totes and thousands of pages to memorize.
I still remember burning my material.
Yeah, well, that's a rite of passage right there. Don't tell us you have all your material in a closet somewhere. You do. You kept it all.
I didn't realize. I mean, you.
Wait, you're supposed to get rid of it?
It's like they're old memories,
Not memories, it's nightmares.
Trauma,
Trauma that you don't need. Trauma that you might need a therapist for.
Jean-Luc finished his test. He had a bonfire.
Oh, yeah. My family had a bonfire. It's like, I'm bringing the stuff.
He was proud. He sent pictures. He's like,
the longer we talk, I would have said we would have had more self-disclosure when it comes to that. So,
yes. All right. Well, thank you everybody who's joined the conversation with us and tuned in. We hope that you enjoyed the conversation and discussion with us as well. These are always a lot of fun to do. Like I said, I keep, like a broken record there, very casual, and it's just a fun time to share with everybody. We do always invite, anybody is welcome to come on and chat as well. If you're not comfortable with coming on stream, you're also welcome to join the conversation in chat as always. We have 2 more, like I said, so on the 15th of May, we're going to be coming back with another roundtable, and then at the end of the month on Memorial Day, or right around the week, probably the weekend into Memorial Day. That way it's not like slap dab on Tuesday. We're going to be hosting a Memorial Day one as well. But we have, if you haven't seen, we have an entire month of amazing content put out there for Mental Health Awareness Month. So every weekend you can check that out. We actually have our schedule. I actually did it on our Twitch channel, so you can check our schedule on there, see when we're going to be live next. I'll be back on tomorrow night with either a community game night, or I'm really dying to dive into putting this book nook together, so I might actually do that. I got this, and I'm dying to put this thing together, and I want to share that time with everybody.
And don't forget our big charity weekend.
Yes, and we have a charity weekend coming up for our Press Start for Mental Health campaign. And that is going to be on the 18th and 19th of this month. And it is going to be so much fun. You're not going to want to miss it. They are always a blast. Somebody always gets hit in the face with a pie.
Well, it's not going to be me because I close it out.
It could be you.
Nah,
It still could
it's
be
not on my incentives list. Sorry.
Oh,
You
we'll
have
put
to add
one in
that.
there for you.
Still have time.
Yeah.
Or you can set these healthy boundaries of not.
Ooh.
Exactly.
Way to
I
bring it
am
back
choo-
around, David.
I
Full
am
circle.
choosing not to have a pie in the face.
Well,
So there.
I will put it down on my incentive, and I usually
Yeah.
get hit with at least 5 or 6 of them.
No slime this year?
God, I hope not. No. If there's been a running thing. If we hit our goal for the campaign as kind of like a reward or to celebrate, I get slimed, and I bring a kiddie pool into my office here, and cover everything in plastic sheets and get a 10-gallon bucket of slime and slime myself live on stream. And it takes about a week and a half to get it out of everything. From the splash to my beard to my ears and my nose.
Yes, Gong Show
Everywhere.
Dad. Exactly like Nickelodeon.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Yep, and it's that consistency too. And I'll tell you what, that's the gift that keeps on giving, because I bought that slime kit like 2 years ago, and I'm still working on it. And I bet you could fill a swimming pool with that, because I've been slimed I don't know how many times, and I've slimed my kids, and I've mailed some of this mixture to people to be slimed, and I still have a freaking kilo of it. It's disturbing how long this has lasted. Definitely best, that's the longest $30 has ever gotten me, because that's what I paid for it. But I hope I don't get slimed, so I've avoided it the last 2. But if we hit it, I will put together the 10-gallon bucket. It's really cold water too, and I will get slimed live on stream. So yeah, and if anybody would like to sub in for that, I will mail you slime. You can mix it right in your kitchen. You
I'm
go to
gonna
Home Depot,
pass on
get a
that.
bucket for $5. They have them at the end of every aisle. Just letting you know. Okay, I'm dragging this out and I'm rambling. All right.
Yeah.
Thank
We
you,
also
everybody.
have the ride along on Sunday.
Yes, we have a very special thing. We have a ride along with our friends at the game Duru, correct?
Yep. Duru, about mole rats and depression.
Yes. So this is a video game. It's a very cute video game. We had a conversation with them, I believe, last year. This Sunday we have a ride along. Their game is now available on Steam. You can get that. It's a very cute game. If you would like to explore that a little bit with us and talk to the developers during this walkthrough and this playthrough of the game, and we're going to explore the depression elements of the game and the mental health side of it, and also the fun side of incorporating those elements into a fun, playful game, because they are little mole rats that run around. So it's adorable. So if you want to check that out, that'll be this Sunday. What time is it, Doc?
I think it is. Is it 1 p.m. Eastern or noon? Noon Eastern, I think.
Noon Eastern. It'll be a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
don't miss it. It'll be this Sunday.
Yeah, we have to
Oh,
play with the time because they're in Germany.
we have a lot of friends in Germany, don't we?
Yeah.
Germany's been a topic tonight, hasn't it? It keeps coming back
Feels
around.
like, yeah.
I dig it. All right, everybody, have a wonderful night. Take care. And Jody, David, Adriana, Doc, thank you all so much for being a part of this again. I love sharing time with everybody. We don't get enough time to chat, but everybody's busy. We all have things going on, but I really cherish these opportunities that we have. And I'm going to stop rambling now and let everybody get some sleep. All right. Have a great night.
Have a good night,
See ya.
everyone.
Bye,
Take
everyone.
care. Bye.